Welcome to Grant's Rock Warehouse, and tonight I want to welcome Larry Graves and Stephen Schnee to the channel. Tonight we are looking at the band Sparks. Primarily, we are looking at the Sparks in the 80s. So we have a panel discussion. We want to hear from you in the chat. Do you like Sparks? Let's get going.
Grant is changing the world one track at a time on Grant's Rock Warehouse.
Welcome to Grant's Rock Warehouse, and look at these two gentlemen. Well, you don't really have to, but they need no introduction. You've seen Schnee before. You've seen Graves before. But tonight we are talking about the band Sparks. Now, why are we talking about Sparks? Well, both of these gentlemen love Sparks. I love Sparks. We all do. But we're talking about a certain period. And
we're talking about the 80s.
Did you have to interrupt? I'm doing my spiel.
Gary, protect me, Gary, please.
Gary, all right.
Larry.
So anyway, we're talking about Sparks in the 80s. So there's what, 7 albums as far as I'm counting.
Seven.
Yep. 7.
Yeah, 7. Can you count Schnee? You have a problem?
Yeah, whatever.
Okay, so he's good. So anyway, we're gonna
Was Hotel California one of them? No,
I think that was the James Gang, wasn't it?
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. Anyway, we're going to talk about Sparks tonight. We're going to do it in an hour. We're trying to turn you on to the stuff because who is talking Sparks? Nobody.
Larry is.
Monty is. But
Monty?
You remember Monty? Larry, you know
Monty Python. Holy crap. You know Monty Python? He's good. He's funny.
He's good. Anyway, we're going to talk some Sparks tonight. And we're looking at the 80s catalog. We're trying to turn you on to it. So anyway, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Schnee because he had some kind of weird story or something. So, Stephen, go ahead.
The first time I heard Sparks. Now, I'm a lot younger than Gary. And so, Gary was always in his 30s by the time he got into Sparks in the 70s. But when I got into Sparks, and this is a true story, but of course I forgot the name of the album, the one with the plane crash on the front. Is that Propaganda?
Indiscreet.
Oh, Indiscreet.
Yeah.
Indiscreet was the first album that I ever bought by them, right? It was a random thing. I got my allowance from my parents. I was 12 or 13 years old. I just was looking for something new and different. So I bought it, took it home. I just hated it. Oh, good Lord, I hated it. I drew on markers on the cover. I hated it so much because it was the strangest thing at that point in my life that I'd heard. Like I said, that was what, 75,
yeah,
Larry?
75,
yeah, 75.
That's
so I was
early, Schnee. That's early.
So I was 12 or 13 and I didn't know what I was getting in. It just looked cool. And then I ignored any Sparks album that came out. I saw in the bin like, they suck, right? But then I heard, I think, first thing I heard that hit me and I just go, wow, was Tips for Teens. K-Rock started playing that when that first came out in 1980. And ever since then, I've been a Sparks fan. So I did go back and I see, the thing is that sometimes in any band, we're talking Ween, The Residents, Sparks, The Beatles, anybody, sometimes you have to sort of get it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So once you understand where they're coming from, that's your gateway. So you may have heard When Do I Get to Sing My Way in the 90s and said, this is a great band, and then went backwards and forwards with the band. That's the thing about Sparks. You had to find the right doorway, and they had a lot of doorways. You go down the Sparks corridor, you're going to be walking for miles. But there's going to be a door that's going to allow you to step into that universe, and then you're going to understand everything. And it just so happened that Tips for Teens and the Want That Sucker album, that was my gateway right there.
All right, cool. Well,
yeah, it's funny, Steve.
Since we're talking about it, Larry, go ahead. Talk about your gateway. And
well, my gateway was seeing them on the Midnight Special in 1974, and I didn't know what the hell I was seeing or hearing. Yeah. The next day, I'm always buying records even back then. I bought Kimono My House. I brought it home. I put it on. I threw it in the garbage. But I luckily took it back out and gave it another chance. And you're right. There's certain bands like Ween, right? The first time I heard Quebec, I loved it right away. Then I ordered the pod. And it was like, this is the worst crap ever. But I warmed up to it after it, and I love it. I love Ween, just like Sparks. Yeah.
Any type of music, I think, is like that. Any artist, I mean, I'm being, I guess, a bit facetious if I'm talking about the Beatles, because that's kind of instantly universally appealing. But a group like Can, I love Can. Yeah. But what is your gateway? Malcolm Mooney? Is it the Dama Suzuki years? Yeah. Is it, it's really difficult. I prefer the Dama Suzuki stuff, but I love the Dama Suzuki stuff forward. So when I think Ehrman and Michael took over vocals or whatever. So there are those bands that are a little bit different, a little bit difficult to get into. I didn't care for Autobahn by Kraftwerk, but I got into them with The Model.
I love all the Kraftwerk stuff, even the early stuff prior to Autobahn. I love all of it.
I love it now, but when I first heard it, which was probably 75, I didn't hear it when it first came out. I think it's 74, right? But I didn't hear but then when I heard The Model, that's when I said, whoa. And then I zeroed in on them.
Question before we keep going. Larry, what's your thought on Kraftwerk?
I like them. My favorites are Autobahn and Radioactivity. The later albums, I'm just not as interested
because I know the way this usually works, ladies and gentlemen, is that I really don't do much. I'm just a talk show host. But usually the ideas for these shows come out of discussions. So, Schnee brought up Kraftwerk, and, I would love to do a Kraftwerk show.
Let's do one.
Okay, that's how it works.
But not Larry.
And a Captain Beefheart.
Without Larry. Well, we're doing Beefheart. Yeah. We're going to do Beefheart with Larry. I love this.
You didn't ask, but Computer World's my favorite.
Computer World's my favorite.
Oh, okay. Come on, Computer World, bro.
All right, it's not working very well.
Yeah, I know. Sorry.
You gave it a shot.
Okay, let's jump into Sparks.
Thank you for hosting, Schnee.
Thank you very much, everybody. We'll see y'all later.
Host? Do you just want to host?
No.
Freaking
no, I leave the monkeys to host the show.
No, I am a monkey. Anyway, like I said, gee, what a train wreck already, but this is fun. Please leave a comment what you think about Sparks and Kraftwerk and the Residents while you're here. Anyway,
and
we're starting out in Ween series coming up. All right, so anyway, thank you, gentlemen, for coming here. We're going to start out with the first record from 1980, Terminal Jive. Giorgio Moroder produced this, and I can't pronounce the name. It featured Harold Faltermeyer.
Yeah, Faltermeyer, who also did Axel F theme. Bum, 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 ba-dum, bum,
yeah,
bum,
he was on Beverly Hills Cop. Okay. Yeah. So this is very disco influenced. It kind of carries over from the 70s. Gentlemen, what do you think of this? I'm going to throw it over to Mr. Schnee first because he's very vocal.
I love the autograph skin.
Oh, yeah. Look. Sorry, Larry. Look at him. Flaunting.
Yeah. Look at him. Well, no, I'm flaunting it because that's the cover that I have. But I guess I could have just shown the non-autographed cover. But no, I like this. Sparks, I thought, was always the thing that set Sparks aside from everybody was the fact that, in essence, they never did the same album twice. So they're coming off this big success of the #1 song in heaven. And then they put out this album, which is far more pop oriented, and they're really pulling back on the dance stuff. But it's still, I mean, it's like a solid album. I mean, you're talking about, When I'm With You, Young Girls, totally, was it Rock and Roll People in a disco world?
Yeah.
Solid album. I wouldn't say it's exactly commercial, but then again, I didn't think that #1 song in heaven. Now, I think it's an incredible song. And I think it should be in every disco in the world, whatever. I didn't realize it was going to be that big of a hit. Same with is Beat the Clock on that album?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the lyrics. Ron Mael is probably one of the greatest lyricists. He's not up there he's not on the same plane as Dylan in terms of the subject matter, but I think he's up there with Chris Difford from Squeeze. They looking at life from a different angle. So that's how
do you look at him compared to Aldo Nova?
Well, Aldo Nova kind of smells like old beef salami, and that's That's what I think about Aldo Nova. No, not really. No, I could care less
But
about Aldo
okay,
Nova.
so you like this record?
Yeah.
What would you?
It's not the greatest in their catalog of the 80s, but I like this album
Okay,
a
excellent.
lot.
Larry, what's your thoughts on this record?
Okay. So every album they released, I bought Kimono, Propaganda, I loved Indiscreet, Big Beat, I loved, Introducing Sparks, I loved. Number One in Heaven, I was worried because, the disco word, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was worried that it was going to suck. But when I bought it was Sparks, right? It was Sparks doing dance music. So I love this too. But when Terminal Jive came out, it was the first time I was disappointed in a Sparks album. It didn't have enough of the male's wacky personality, even the lyrics. But now, like today, I enjoy it more than I did when I bought it. Like it is a good album, but it doesn't compare to Number One in Heaven.
Gotcha. All right. So, well, I will say this. Terminal Jive is a little bit kind of controversial. I don't think this is not considered a fan favorite.
No.
No. Schnee's coughing. You all right, Schnee?
I'm sorry.
You're all right.
No, I'm fine.
All right, good. So it's not really a fan favorite, but I think it's a different record. I think it's fine. It did well. I think they put out, what was the single off of this album?
When I'm With You was I think number one song in France.
France. The French get it.
And that's a great song. That is.
And wasn't Young Girls a single too, Larry?
I'm not sure.
Or maybe the B-side.
The other song I love on the album is Stereo.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, here's just a thing I want to add. One of the bonus tracks on the CD is Young Girls' disco version. So it might have been a 12-inch single or something. So
real quick before we go on, what CD are you holding? What CD is that with the bonus tracks?
This is the repertoire.
Okay. How's the sound quality on that? Because there's a lot of, on the internet, there's a lot of speculation. There's a lot of controversy. There's a lot of discussion about, was this taken from a master tape? Was it taken on vinyl?
Mine sounds great.
Okay.
Some people say it's brick wall and stuff like that, but you have to understand, and I only say this occasionally, but I was born with hearing issues. So I don't hear some of the highs and lows and stuff. I can stand outside and not hear a single bird chirping, right? But if I record it on my phone and then play it back, I can hear a bunch of birds chirping.
Wow, that's kind of wild. That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's better than nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
But your mental issues, does that ever come into play? Yeah, of course it does. All right, so I think I may just host this because we're trying to get through this. This is really a two-parter, but we're going to do it in one. All right, so the next album. So we're looking at Want That Sucker from 1979. This was on Atlantic. Mac. Anybody who knows who Mac is, did a lot of work with Billy Squier, did a lot of work with Queen. I am not a big Mac fan. I don't care for the Queen stuff that Mac did, but oh yeah, don't forget ELO. He did a lot of work. But so what's your thoughts on this one, Schnee? Go ahead.
I really like this album. The lyrics, basically they had a crunch back into their sound. The crunch that had been missing in the last couple albums. There's a edgy. Now I think this might have been the first album with Gleaming Spires, which was David Kendrick and all the guys. I think this is just top notch. Even when you get to like Wacky Women, but Funny Face, that was a big song here in Southern California on KROQ when the album came out. Tips for Teens.
Watch how you say that.
Yeah, I know.
Schnee, quit saying tips.
I'm not saying that.
You'll get me canceled.
Yeah, but I Married a Martian. This solid from, but it's so completely different out there. You were talking about Mac, the production. He even did, I think, a After the Fire album as well. I think their third or fourth album. But I think it's a solid album.
So do you think
one of my favorites?
Just to throw it out there, because we're having a conversation. Do you think Mac knew exactly what to do with Sparks in this time period?
Do I think he knew what to do with Sparks?
Well, he's going to.
No, I don't think so.
No, but he's going to do more of a Sparks. Do you like what he did with them in general?
I very much do, because remember what I said earlier about every Sparks album was a little bit different from each other.
Right.
If not radical. This, I think, is a big radical change from Terminal Jive.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's more focused and it's more rock and it's crunchier. And it really shows their personality more than Terminal Jive did. So,
Perfect. All right,
Larry, what are your thoughts?
Larry, yes, thanks, Steve, for posting again.
Well, you're ruining the show.
How am I do? Do you want me to just you do it?
No, I thought Gary should host the show.
This is a solid rockin' album. Like I was so happy.
Sorry,
when,
Larry. Go ahead.
They came back. They got an actual real band, and they started playing live again. And yeah, I love all of the songs. That's Not Nastasia. I Married a Martian is probably one of my favorites. And yeah, Funny Face. And
well, let me throw this out there. When this came out, it got a lot of mixed reviews. Of course, in the United States, Sparks never took off. They usually got slammed by the critics. But one of the criticisms of this record is that it seemed to be a little bit it lacked focus, and as opposed to the earlier work. Gentlemen, what do you think of that? Do you find?
I think it's totally focused.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Larry, you think that too?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So you'd recommend this record? If
Absolutely.
Let's say I'm going out there, I'm looking for Sparks, I go in the used bin and I go, oh look, want that sucker. Get it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I would give Terminal Jive a 7 out of 10 and Want That Sucker a 9 out of 10.
All right, perfect. Excellent. Let's keep going. Now we are in 1982. We've got Angst in My Pants, which I do have an original promo poster, which I should have pulled. It's sitting over there, but I didn't. But I have an original and then I just got shut down. So my promo poster doesn't mean very much now because Schnee just threw out an autographed copy of Angst in My Pants. All right. So anyway, Mr. Schnee, thank you for
stealing your thunder.
Harshing my mellow.
Now, can you move your camera and show us the poster?
I can't because it's over there. I'd have to get up and get it. It's okay. I've showed it before. Anyway, go ahead. What's your thoughts on this record?
This, I think, is a continuation of Want That Sucker, but I think that they really streamlined it. And I think that this was a great collection of songs. This is the song that really brought them to the attention of the American audience. This is the tour that they did.
Saturday Night Live.
Saturday Night Live, American Bandstand, all these things. I was catching all these shows. He had the big silver or the glittery suits on, Russell did. And this is, Caro Q in LA played practically every song from this album. You're looking at, Eaten by the Monster Love got tons of air. The song Angst in My Pants. I Predict, even Mickey Mouse and Mustache. This, I think, is friggin' solid. It's a great record, full of humor, full of originality. Just everything coalesced on this album. It was
Cohabitated.
Something like that.
Commingled.
And that was the first time I saw Sparks in concert, 1982, at the El Macombo in Toronto.
Oh, fantastic. El Macombo. Did you ever see Costello? I think there's a Costello bootleg. No, okay.
I wish I had,
Yeah. So your thoughts, Larry, since
Steve's hosting, go ahead.
I think it's even a better album than Want That Sucker. And one of my all-time favorite Sparks songs is the Decline and Fall of Me, because he's writing about failure on the charts, on the album charts, and Goodbye Future Mrs. Mail. I just love that line. Decline and Fall of Me is, I can't think of anything bad about this album. No.
Well, the critics didn't care for it.
Who cares?
I'm just devil's advocate. I'm just out there. But I do think it's got a lot of catchy melodies. I think, this is the second time we're working with Mac, and I think things kind of gelled better. I think as they go into the 80s, I think they're getting things more figured out. I think it's got a lot of catchy melodies, but I think it has more focus. I like the production. So far, things are looking good for Sparks here in the 80s, as far as I'm concerned. This is a must-have, is the way I look at it.
I think it's a must-have 80s album, not just a must-have Sparks album. I think if you want to build some kind of collection and and you haven't really gotten into 80s music that much, I mean, if you're younger or if the 80s passed you by, this I think is an essential purchase as a classic 80s album.
How do you look at this as far as being a new wave album? Does it fit within the new wave context of the whole genre?
I think so, but I think it's more than that, though. That's a problem with a lot of great albums, I think, as we all know. Some people call Flock of Seagulls. There's my obligatory mention per episode.
I knew you were going to mention that.
Yeah, Flock of Seagulls, some people call them a synth pop band, but they were equally a guitar band.
Yeah.
And so new wave, I think, is really a very large umbrella term. I call a lot of bands new wave. To simplify it, if somebody's saying, well, what kind of music is that? If I say, well, it's post-punk's a synth pop with a country feel to it, people aren't going to understand that. So I just go, new wave.
Yeah. Well, you have to look at Sparks this way. They tended to morph with the times. So if disco was hip, they could play disco. If new wave was hip, they can do new wave. So they're just kind of flowing with the times, but there's not really any genre that they can't handle. Larry, do you agree with that? I'm just saying.
And even back in like the Kimono My House days, they were sometimes called a glam rock band, which I don't see. Right?
No.
They have to label them as something all the time, right?
See, I totally agree with that. I never thought of that. I always think it's weird when you get like the best of glam 70s and it's got Sparks on it. And I'm going,
Yeah.
Yeah,
they're not like Slade.
Yeah, exactly.
And everything, right?
Exactly.
Or Sweet, for all that matters. So anyway, this is a good record. All right.
Or cool. T-Rex.
Or T-Rex. All right. So the next album we're going to look at, which is probably my personal favorite, which it seems to be a lot of controversy with this record because I'm not sure where the master tapes are. There are some CD reissues that appear to be off of vinyl. I don't know, except Schnee's, which are signed again. In fact, Schnee is like Martin Popoff. Everything is signed.
No, not everything. I just got lucky and had them sign it during the Balls tour. They were at a Virgin Record store.
So anyway, this is where I think, well, I don't want to say that. I'm just going to go. We're in 1983. This is the record. This is my gateway drug because when I saw Jane Wiedlin with Sparks do Cool Places, I think dreamy for one, Jane Wiedlin, dreamy.
Yeah.
But that song is pop goodness. It's one of my, I probably said this before, one of my all-time favorite 80s tracks.
Absolutely.
Very new wave, very cutting edge. I think it only reached 49 on the charts. The album, I don't even think charted, but at least they got a little bit of chart success, even though 49 is not really chart success. It should have been way higher on the charts than it did. But anyway, Steve, what's your thoughts on this record? I love this record. So.
Incredible. This is my favorite of the 80s albums.
Yeah.
Yes. Popularity. To a place that's called, I forget what it's called, but it's really great. And the lyrics are amazing. The music is amazing. Who produced this album? I forgot to check.
The band did.
Okay, the band did. So they got rid of that Matt Crunch, but they continued in the same direction. So I love it when a band does that. You can tell it's a different producer, but the band is continuing with this great sound, which means that it isn't the producer. You know what I mean? I mean, some people say, "Oh yeah, Todd Rundgren, he made this album," or Steve Lillywhite made this album, or whatever. People are always, patting the producer on the back. In a lot of cases, it is. But Sparks, Ron and Russell, and the rest of the band, they were just incredible, no matter who produced them.
Well, based on what I hear, I think they were better off producing themselves.
Yeah.
Because I think they know exactly what they want at this point. Look, how many albums have they put out at this point? They should know by now what they want and the way they should sound. So I'm all for them producing themselves at this point. Larry, what's your whole thoughts on this?
One thing I was always surprised they never released the other song with Jane as a single, Lucky Me, Lucky You. That has hit all over it. I think that could have been big on the radio.
Give me more information on that because why wasn't that released? I mean, was Cool Places the only thing that was released?
Yeah. Cool Places, and then I think
All You Ever Think About Is Sex was a single too.
All You Ever Think About Is Sex.
Mm-hmm. That was,
and then I think they were even trying Praying for a Party, which is kind of weaker.
It's very danceable though. I don't have no problem with it, but
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what the reason is. I don't know.
I wish it looked a little better.
Yeah.
But it's also the name of a song on the album.
Steve.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you guys this, because I don't really know the answer. How did Atlantic at this point support the band? Were they getting a lot of support? I mean, Angst got a promo poster, I know that, but do you gentlemen remember any kind of promotional materials? Did Atlantic promote this band? Did Atlantic
I don't remember it being more than Angst. You know, I remember it being an even trajectory in terms of how they were presented in the press and stuff. But I think that with Angst, they had more television appearances and stuff like that. But the popularity maintained, you know, they were still appealing to the same people, playing the same type.
They were still on American Bandstand.
Oh, okay. You see, this time I didn't see them.
Yeah, but Cool Places was all over MTV. I'm surprised that this didn't like shoot up to like number 5. Don't forget, what year? We're 1983. The Go-Go's were still relevant. They know who Jane was. The video was great. It checks every box. I love Cool Places. I'm just surprised. Only 49. I mean, it just makes me believe that maybe Atlantic didn't promote it enough because to me, it's a number 1 hit.
I totally agree. What some people don't understand, or I mean, I think we all know this, but the reason they got Jane Whelan involved because the Go-Go's were popular, but she was also like the president of the Sparks fan club before the Go-Go's.
I thought Russell was having a little extracurricular
on the
with
side.
Jane.
Yeah.
All I can tell you is, I think every red-blooded male in America wanted to marry Jane Whelan. I'm not going to say
I love Jane. She's like one of the most perfect. Well, that's another show.
But what I wanted to mention, Larry, before you talk about the album is, remember how I told you I got these things autographed during the Balls tour, where I saw them during that tour. And every time they did a song from the 80s, I somehow think that they don't care for the 80s stuff so much because they go, oh, here's another song from the awesome 80s. And then the next time they played an old song, oh, here's another song from the excellent 80s. And through the whole show, they would almost say it sarcastically. And I'm thinking like, that's my favorite stuff. But anyway, Larry, what do you think?
I love the 80s stuff.
The last 2 times I saw them recently, they did 80s stuff like Angst in My Pants, and it was so...
No derogatory statements. They just played it. And everything was cool. Well, there you go. I don't know.
Maybe Russell was just in a bad mood.
Yeah. So anyway, since we're 1983, how do you think, Larry, that this record is in the, you know, the catalog as far as the 80s?
Yeah, it's just another great Sparks album. I was maybe a little disappointed there wasn't as much guitar as the previous 2. But yeah, like Rockin' Girls, that's a rockin' track. I love that. And yeah, I really, it's another great album.
What do you think that the more keyboards are trying to be more new wave? I mean, in 83, that's kind of the tail end of new wave, but
yeah, I think
I don't know.
They were getting tired of guitars again, maybe.
Well, you know, artists at this level, they want to constantly keep it changing. Yeah. So maybe they were just all into keyboards. I don't know. Possibly. I don't know. Schnee, how do you compare this with Angst? I mean, do you find this more new wave or do you find Angst?
I find this more new wave. I find it also, because of the production, I find it smoother as well.
Too, 100%.
You know, yeah. And this tends to be my favorite of the 80s. Yeah. I think this is a great gateway album. But Angst, I think, is whereas this is my favorite, you know, like I said earlier about Angst being that an essential addition to any 80s collection. I think this is as well, but I think that Angst is more of a classic, but I think this is a better album, if that makes sense. Because to me, my favorite doesn't mean I'm saying it's the best.
Right. We've been on enough shows that, you may have a favorite. It might not be considered the best by the general public or the critics or whatever, but we all, word of mouth.
Right. Yeah. 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 Totally.
Good. By the way, that'll premiere tomorrow. I don't know when this is coming out. Well, it might come out tomorrow. But yeah, Steve and I just did a show on the 80s.
Kinks period.
The Arista period of the Kinks. So look forward to that. Please subscribe, make a comment.
Yeah, see, and the whole favorite best thing, like Larry's my favorite, but Grant is the best.
What? That's true. I'm not. No, I worship Larry. It's different. He's the man.
Yeah, you see, we have to act like, oh yeah, Larry's one of us, right? We know he's not. Like
he's
before
not.
The show, we were like, Larry,
you know what? Yeah. He's coming down here to slum on this channel.
Exactly.
He's slumming.
These little people.
These little people. He's in a different level. So,
exactly.
Anyway, let's keep this moving. Now we are in 1984. We're talking about the album Pulling Rabbits Out of the Hat. Now, you know what? My number one, this is not, I'm not trying to be derogatory. I'm not trying to put this record down, but this is one of those records back in the day when in my youth, this was always in the cutout bins. Tons of them. This record didn't sell. I don't know if Atlantic was thinking, this is going to be it. This is the record. But I just remember going through Music Lane in the cutout bins. Tons of these records. You could buy them all day for 50 cents. Anyway, I'm not saying that that's good or bad, but I'm just saying there were a lot of these around in the bins. Anyway, Schnee, what's your thoughts on this record?
I think With All My Might is one of their best singles.
It should have been a huge radio hit.
Yes, I think Pulling Rabbits Out of a Hat is absolutely fantastic. I can't tell you what any of the other songs sound like.
Well, at least you're honest.
Yeah.
Why, you don't have this record?
No, I got 2 copies. Remember, one of them autographed?
You should play it sometime.
Here, you want me to show that again?
Do you think that the autographed copy sounds different than the unautographed copy? That's my first impression.
It's more impressive, when you're on a live stream, if you're trying to get viewers and people go, I don't want to watch that show. Yeah, but Schnee has the autographed Sparks albums on CD. No, I mean, I don't think it's a terrible record. I mean, I'm more or less being facetious when I say I don't remember, but this was a huge disappointment for me. In fact, I think I bought 5 copies and then put them in the cutout bin.
Well, the thing is that this record, I'm just going to throw it out there, the critics, I think this continues the evolution of the band. Mm-hmm. I mean, it just seems like a natural process. You still have catchy melodies, but, some people thought that this was less groundbreaking than what came before. Mm-hmm. But then some people liked the production, they praised it, but it didn't chart in the USA. It didn't do anything. Like I said, it ended up in the cutout bins. Larry, what's your thoughts on this record?
I was also disappointed when it came out, but there were some songs like, With All My Might I loved. Pulling Rabbits Out of a Hat is brilliant.
Well, what were you disappointed about?
The production. I didn't really care for the production.
What about it?
It just didn't sound as good as the 2 before it. And this one was produced by
this?
Ian Little.
I don't know.
I think
Ian
he was
Little.
with something to do with Duran Duran.
Do you know Ian Little, Schnee?
Yeah, as the son of Ian Big.
But I will say, through the years, I've grown to really appreciate this album. It's not as strong as the ones before it, but I still think it's a very good album. Yeah.
But let's say I'm new to Sparks. Would you say start out with here so far, or should I start out with Angst? Or
don't start with Pulling Rabbits Out of a Hat.
No.
No. Okay. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. We'll kind of look at it at the end. Maybe these gentlemen can rank them. I've got my ranking, but that's all right. So a little bit of a disappointment, you would say.
Sparks never doesn't have a bad album. They just have albums that just aren't as good as the others.
Okay, perfect enough. I'll go with that.
Unless, of course, you're talking about the next one.
Well, we are talking about the next one. The next album, 1986, music that you can dance to. Now, you think we're going back in time to the disco period, but well, maybe we are. This record came out on MCA. Now, if anybody knows about MCA,
one of the best record companies in history.
Especially Curb, who just repackages everything. Music you can dance to. Curb released as Sparks' greatest hits.
The best of Sparks.
Yeah, best of
Sparks.
Sparks.
I will say this: Curb did put out the Sean Cassidy Wasp CD.
Did they?
You have that?
No.
Yeah, it's been out.
Christmas is coming.
I'll get you one. Give me your address. I'll send it to you.
But
anyway, get back on track. Schnee, what's your thoughts on this record?
Don't care for it. Music you can dance to, I love. I think Change is pretty good. I didn't care for this version of Modesty Plays. And yeah, I thought this was even a bigger disappointment than Pulling Rabbits Out of a Hat.
Well, do you dislike it because it's more polished? Is it losing energy? No. What's the problem?
The songs just didn't catch me. The songs didn't catch me.
So you think there's a decrease in the songwriting level of expertise? Again,
my opinion.
Now, this does contain for me Sparks' worst song.
Which is what?
Fingertips.
Isn't there a song by The Residents called Fingertips?
No, there's an album called Fingerprints.
Well, Fingerprints. He's the guitarist, I think. Or
I'm a monkey.
I don't know. But my CD.
No, that's Snake Finger.
My CD doesn't have the song Change. It has Armies of the Night.
Okay,
but either one of those is great.
What CD is that? What do you have?
This is Curb Records. Oh, yeah, it's Curb.
It's Curb.
Repertoire Records.
It's Curb.
Yeah. No.
Okay, so that Repertoire is like a German label, right?
Yeah.
They put out a lot of stuff. They probably put that out that's probably an early one. Probably.
Well, Repertoire is the one that did the expanded editions of these.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's well done.
I just find it funny that's who did the expanded editions with Repertoire.
But once again,
nothing against them.
If I can get in a word edgewise.
Yeah, go ahead.
So when this came out, I guess, I don't know. I liked it, but I wasn't one of their best. But over the years, once again, I just have a new appreciation for it. They were even doing Shopping Mall of Love in concert the last couple of years.
Oh, really?
Ron, yeah. Yeah.
What do you think when the band looks at this? Is this like one of those records they don't think that much about? Or
I don't know, because they still do music that you can dance to live.
Right.
And like I said, Shopping Mall of Love. So,
all right. Yeah, but anyway, it's not quite as quirky as they usually are, right? Is this just pretty much just a dance record? How do you look at it? I mean, you're not a big fan of the songwriting, but is it production that really alienates you?
I mean, I look at it as just a Sparks album. Sparks create music, regardless of the genre. Sparks create music that only Sparks can create. Whether it's disco, whether it's new wave, whether it's whatever, they make albums that only they can make. You can't listen to it and go, "Oh, is this what group is this? Oh God, what group is this?" No, it's Sparks.
Well, the only reason I bring it up because I mean, Larry's a big Sparks fan. I mean, some people may not like the quote unquote dance music Sparks, and rather just have more traditional songwriting, I mean, I didn't know if that's what really turned you off or not.
Are you talking to me or Larry?
You both of you at the same time? I'm sitting here in the middle.
Yeah, the dance elements kind of always, back then, I was more of a rock guy. So yeah, the dancey kind of, even though, like I said, Number One in Heaven was brilliant to me. I didn't miss the guitars on that album at all.
We see an interesting thing, I think, about any band, like The Fix. Let's just use the fix for example, because this is the same thing that Larry was kind of saying, how it was a disappointment. Then he went back to it and appreciated it more. Let's say an album like by the Fix, Walkabout. First time I heard it, I go, wow, that Secret Separation, great song. This is a great song. That's pretty awesome, whatever. But it was kind of like, it's a Fix album. So I put it away. And that album, 40 years later, or 38 years later, however long it's been, it keeps getting better and better.
Yeah.
And you can walk away from it for a month, a week, or whatever, and it just gets better and better. Even though the production's a little bit dated. And here it was, back when it first came out, I wasn't I liked it a lot, but now I love it. And a lot of albums do that. They just start digging into you. So sometimes it's that whole first impressions often lie. So yeah, but I haven't been able to really latch on to music you can dance to, basically because I don't own it anymore. So if I find another CD copy, I'm going to buy it.
Well, good luck. I've never seen it in the wild ever. So
yeah.
Though I will mention, this is a bit of a tangent. When I was at a record store in Columbus, I saw, you remember those? Okay, the Island remasters of the Sparks catalog when they put them out on CD.
Yep.
Sound really good. The Island remasters from the UK. I'll be darned, but I was going through the used bins and they had like, I'm having a brain crisis, but 3 of those Island records for $5 a piece. I just bought them all and they sound
wow. Well, they just released a 2 CD set called 1974. Is that right, Larry? It's called 1974.
There's a 3 CD set of their greatest of their singles.
And who put that out?
No, but there's a 2 CD set coming out, it's out called 1974. And it's like the 2 albums they put out in 1974 plus the B-sides and stuff. Mm-hmm. They're releasing them separately on vinyl as separate albums, but they're putting out a 2 CD set with.
All right, Larry's. There you go. Yeah. There it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Past tense. 3 CDs.
So I'm just curious, but what label put that out?
This is BMG.
BMG. All right. Mm-hmm. So should be fine. So you might want to, if you're getting into the Sparks, you may.
This is what I would suggest. Yeah.
Oh, it is a solid comp because it covers the entire career.
All right, there you go. How's it sound though?
Excellent.
Fine.
Remastered.
All right, cool.
But Larry, you don't have the Sparks 1974?
No.
Okay, because what were the 2 albums that came out in 74?
Kimono and Propaganda.
Right. Yeah. So they put both of those albums together in a 2 CD set. And then they also released them separately. Yeah, they also released them separately on vinyl.
It just hasn't been it's on Amazon, but you can't buy it. It's whatever, sold out or whatever.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the Island remasters, of course they were separate, but they had bonus tracks on it.
Yep.
I mean, if you're looking at any of that Island catalog, go rush out and get it. I know we're not that's 70s stuff, but I'm just saying they did a wonderful job on those and they sound great. So if you can find them, get them. There. Now we are on to interior design, ladies and gentlemen. So what this was this 88? Remind me.
Yeah.
88. Thoughts on that? So this record, by the time this really came out, I really wasn't paying much attention to it. I remember seeing this in the bins, in the used bins, but for some reason the artwork didn't strike me and it just kind of registered in my mind as, I don't know. Schnee, what's your thoughts on this record?
I'm kind of the same way, although Just Got Back from Heaven is one of my all-time favorite Sparks songs. It's such a great pop tune.
Yep.
But I'm kind of, I think that things were changing. Obviously, in 1988, you're looking at Johnny Hates Jazz coming around and stuff. And I think that Sparks were trying to find their place. But they found their place, I think, in the 90s is when they embraced sort of the whole electronic dance music and stuff. Mm-hmm. I don't think this is a last gasp type situation. I don't think like, we're spent creatively, because they're still a very creative band, but the songs just weren't hitting me like they had a few years before that.
All right. Larry, what's your thoughts on this one?
When it came out, I was really disappointed. I found it pretty bland. Once again, kind of similar to Terminal Jive. Didn't, it was more serious. But once again, over the years, I really do like it now. It's not, one of my favorites, but I think a song like So Important is excellent. Couple of like Madonna, I've never been a fan of the artist or the song.
Yeah, but why would they do like a tribute to Madonna? I don't
It's
understand.
just their humor, but
Okay,
I don't know, it just didn't work.
Didn't they have a song called Shut Up, Morrissey?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that I get.
Yeah.
Morrissey should be quiet. I love Morrissey, don't get me wrong. I like him as an artist, but some people should just be calm down.
I'm scared and I want to die.
But this record got mixed reviews too. I mean,
and also the production was kind of so, and that was the first time they were recording in Russell's studio, so they're probably kind of learning their craft a bit more. And
I mean, did they have a proper engineer, or did they just engineer it themselves?
No, they engineered it. Yeah.
Well, maybe that was part of the problem.
Yeah, I just think that they were just in that phase where they're just going to jump over and get into the electronic thing. I mean, I don't think that they knew that they that, but I think that really things really changed for them after this album. They just continued to get better.
Yeah, but they also kind of disappeared for like 4 or 5 years. I thought they were done, seriously. But behind the scenes, of course, they're always working, right?
Yeah, and then they did that song "Singing in the Shower" with La Suite Mitsuko.
Yeah, and that was a hit.
Was it a hit in England, or was it just like France and Germany and Europe?
Maybe just France. Well, I don't know. At least France. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now there was a CD that was re-released with bonus tracks. Either you have that?
Of what? No, I don't have that either.
I don't know. I've never seen it. I'm just curious, but it's got like Madonna. It's got a French version.
I've got it right here.
You got it?
Yeah.
Of course, Larry's got it.
Of course, I've got it.
Schnee doesn't have it. Of course.
Here it is, right here.
What does the cover look like to that one?
Yeah, show us the cover.
Show the cover, Larry.
There it is.
Well, that doesn't look like there it is. Yeah. No signatures, Schnee.
You see, there is
lyrics inside.
There is an import one that has a different cover. I've seen, like, if you go to Discogs or eBay or whatever, there is a different cover, I think, to the reissue to that album. I don't think it's a vast improvement. It's not like you're going to go, okay, now I want to buy this album.
Right.
All right, let's rank the albums.
All right, so go ahead, Larry, start us off.
Number 7, Terminal Jive. Number 6, Interior Design. Number 5, Pulling Rabbits Out of a Hat. Number 4, Music That You Can Dance to. Where am I? Number 3, Sparks in Outer Space. Number 2, Womp That Sucker. Number 1, Angst to My Pants.
Angst is number 1.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I can see that. Because my ranking is a little bit similar. Anyway, Schnee, before I go ahead, you go.
I didn't rank them. I would number 1 for me is Outer Space. Number 2 is probably Angst or Womp That Sucker, and everything else is mix and match. It just depends on what day.
All right, well, I'll go. All right, I'm going to go with Interior Design, Terminal, Pulling, Dance, Womp, Angst, and Space.
I will tell you, Music You Can Dance to would be my 7. And then above that would be probably Interior Design. Then above that would be Pulling Rabbits.
All right, well, that's totally wrong, but that's okay. We'll accept that. But anyway, there you go. We did it in an hour. Oh my God, this was like a marathon episode. Does anybody have anything more to add before we wrap this show up?
I would just say that I think Sparks' last three albums are just as good as their earlier stuff. And The Girl Is Crying in Her Latte is one of my favorite Sparks albums.
All right. So
I will tell you that I hate that as an album title.
Yeah.
I think it's a great song title, but as an album title, I don't. Right. It doesn't work for me. But musically, I can't believe that these guys are probably almost as old as Larry, and they're still putting out music that still surprises you.
Right.
That's the thing. It's not. I mean, I would. Oh gosh, if they put out anything as bad as McCartney 3, I would just.
Don't offend Larry.
Oh, sorry.
He loves that record.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Egypt Station.
That's a pretty good record, but I don't think McCartney 3 is very good.
Okay. But yeah, just they continue to be a great band.
Yeah, I agree. Real quick before we got a minute. If we were going to look at the 70s period and including Half Nelson, thoughts on that? Do you like the 80s period over the 70s period?
I do.
I bet Schnee does, but
I don't.
I bet Larry does.
I like the 70s period more.
Do you?
Think that was the golden period?
Yeah.
And
okay, Larry.
Go ahead.
I'm the host. Larry.
Go ahead.
Let's break Sparks down into 3 stages. And I know that, no, 4 stages. In order per decade, 70s, 80s, 90s, and then 2000s, including 2010s and 20s. What do you consider your favorite periods? Would it be 70? Would it be in that order? Would you mix the 2000s up into above the 80s? What would you do?
It would be 70s, and then probably the 2000s.
Okay, so you prefer 2000s over the 80s stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
What about you, Grant?
Me? That's hard to do. I love that 70s stuff, but I also love the 80s stuff. I'm going to have to say it's a tie for the 70s and 80s. I love those both just as much, I think.
Mm-hmm. With me, it's the 80s for sure. I mean, I think that everybody probably figured that out already.
No, I haven't figured it out. Anyway.
You're so mean to me.
I know. But it's been a good discussion. It's a good discussion. We did Sparks in the 80s in an hour. And I didn't think this was possible. But
especially with my motor mouth.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is why we went to the moon, so we could talk Sparks in an hour. So anyway,
yes. Please
check out this catalog. Please check out this 80s catalog. Of course, we're not talking 70s or 2000 or the 90s. But Sparks. I do want to thank Stephen Schnee for coming on. I want to thank Larry Graves for coming on. This was a fun discussion. It was a quick one. But hey, these guys know what they're talking about. So go out if you can find it. And I'm not sure if you can stream it. I don't know what's available on Amazon. I don't know what's available at your local record store, but go out and do yourself a favor and check out some Sparks. If you do know Sparks, please leave a comment. Please please subscribe. Please subscribe to Stephen Schnee's channel and Larry Graves' channel, the Canadian Stud Muffin. Larry, do you still have 2 channels going? Yep. He's got 2 channels because he's really ambitious. So check out Larry's.
He's also so popular. He's so big. He's so fantastic. He's just too wonderful for one channel.
Right.
That's the way I look at it.
Thank you.
Well, he's like the YouTube godfather. So I'll put the links down below for both of these gentlemen, and please subscribe to their channels. Please leave a comment. Anybody, before we wrap it up, anything you want to add?
I apologize, Larry, for being obnoxious. Will you ever forgive me?
I accept your apology.
Okay.
All right. So there you go. We'll see you, kids. Keep it clean and wrap the rascal. All right. See you on the next one.